News Review on 89.8 FM Radio Wa. All the news that featured throughout the week. Catch it only on Radio Wa. Blessed are the peacemakers.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of the weekly news roundup on 89.8 FM. Here is a look at stories making headlines in the Lango sub-region and across the globe. In the studio, I am Agnes Aguilo together with
Stewart Bua is my name.
Good evening, Stewart.
A very good evening.
How are you today?
I'm okay.
I can see you look elegant.
How has been the week?
It went on well, and finally we are here for the weekly news roundup. During the course of the week, many events transpired in the Lango sub-region, and starting with, leaders from Lango sub-region have outlined key development priorities for inclusion in Uganda's upcoming National Development Plan 4, even as President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni pledged increased funding for wealth creation programs. The proposals were presented during a presidential victory celebration, which was held at Lango College Playground, where leaders emphasized the need for greater representation of Lango in the national leadership, including more appointments to key government positions. Leading the call was none other than Dr. Jane Ruth Achengo-Chero, who is the Minister of Health, and also the Lera City Woman MP and NRM Chairperson for Lera City. Acheng urged the government to allocate more ministerial slots to the region, expand employment opportunities, and invest in critical infrastructure such as an airfield and industrial park in Lera City. In response, President Museveni reaffirmed his administration's commitment to fighting household poverty through flagship initiatives such as the Parish Development Model and Imyoga. President Museveni called on members of parliament to closely monitor these programs and to ensure they deliver tangible benefits to the citizens.
Agnes, I think the Lao agenda is progressing. It all started with advocacy. Some group of leaders in Lao are moving to president, not once, starting from the time of campaigning, and it's progressing. But I think it is the time that we need to have this Lao agenda published somewhere so that everyone will have a chance to meet or interact with either the president or any arm of the government will table the same thing. Because now I'm seeing a trend coming up which whereby different people will start putting in their interest into the Lao agenda.
Now, Stewart, do you mean to say that you are not satisfied with the already established group that are supposed to present the Lao agenda to President Museveni?
No, my point is, Lao agenda be published somewhere for all of us to see, to know what is in the Lao agenda, so that if any other person, any leader from Lao happens to meet with the president or any arm of the government, table is the same thing. Because now it will come a point whereby someone meets with any arm of the government or the president and will start putting that interest into Lao agenda. It will come a point whereby different people will be presenting different things. We are about to start distorting this Lao agenda if we don't have it clearly published somewhere. What if it is, if it is on the website, is it bad that everyone go and check on the website and you see Lao agenda?
To me, I feel there is much confidence on the already established, the group of people supposed to present the agenda. And I just pray that they do the rightful thing for the benefit of the Lango community at large.
As long as they will not distort it at some point, because to me, I feel everyone now should know what is in the Lao agenda. Can you go and meet any other person who identifies him or herself with the Lao as a tribe and ask him or her about the Lao agenda? Can the person explain right now? Let us have it somewhere, and all of us are contented as Lao that this is the agenda that we are all going to push in the next government. That is just the point. But all in all, Lao agenda is so far perfect. But how is it being fronted is where my point is.
Those are your thoughts, and we pray it materializes and we move on.
Anyway, moving on, let's look into what happened in the course of the week in Kwale District. The Member of Parliament for Kwale North County, Honorable Samuel Opiyo Achuri, has blamed the increasing levels of corruption in Uganda on what he describes as inaction and reluctance by key government institutions mandated to fight the graft Dr. Churi, who also serves as the General Secretary of the Lango Parliamentary Group, revealed that 2 years ago, he formally petitioned both the State Anti-Corruption Unit and the Inspector General of Government to investigate alleged mismanagement of road maintenance funds amounting to 200 million shillings in Kwale District. According to the legislator, despite submitting substantial evidence to support the claims, the responsible agencies have yet to take meaningful action or commence investigations. He warned that such delays not only undermine accountability, but also risk encouraging further corruption. Dr. Churi further noted that the prolonged inaction has negatively impacted road infrastructure development in the district, where road networks, he said, continue to hinder access to health facilities, disrupt trade, and limit educational and rural mobility within the area.
Yeah, I do concur with the cry of the Kwale North MP, Dr. Opiah Churi. Remember, Stewart, there is one thing we must put into consideration. There was already a lot about the mismanagement of the road fund that has already been highlighted by the MP. And I feel that the anti-corruption agency would have really, taken a quick response to mitigate the vice.
I think our political leaders also need to strengthen their relationships with the technocrats within their respective local governments. Because now this comes, you'll find a situation whereby one of the two is not well informed about even the development within the local government, or one of the two is more informed than the other. I think what will maybe avoid such knocking of horns within the local government settings will be harmonizing positions. You see, when one person is coming out to report corruption, in most cases you'll find could be a deal has gone wrong somewhere. Someone has.
Are you trying to say that a deal went wrong somewhere in Kwale District? No. That's the reason the MP had to dig out the rods about the mismanagement of the funds?
I'm not trying to say it that way, but I'm bringing a general perspective. This is not the first time. It is not only happening in Kwale District.
True.
It is only that the Member of Parliament for Kwale District has been doing his oversight
role.
With the eyes on and hands off, as the law stipulates. And that's why he's coming up with all these claims, petitioning different respective offices. But also, are we saying it's only happening in Kwale District? No.
Not really.
It is also in other districts, but those leaders are keeping quiet. Why?
Who tells you the leaders are keeping quiet? Maybe you are not aware that such cases has also been, reported.
Like which one?
As you have
which
just said.
Which leader did not keep quiet? When?
Stewart, as we have just said, the issue of corruption is not only happening in Kwale District. So it is upon a respective leader to do an oversight role, and where things are not working out well, it is your duty to follow it up and see that government resources have been allocated in, their respective places of work for the benefit of the entire community.
There was a case in Utuke, whereby the district chairperson was accused by the Member of Parliament, Honorable Julius Achonbua, over the same mismanagement of the road fund. But in response, Honorable Julius Achon, in response, the district chairperson said because Honorable Julius' interest was not fulfilled in the planning.
That's why he had to spot the roads about the corruption?
Could be. Now, what if maybe I didn't independently verify, but what if the Honorable's interest was fulfilled? Would he come up? So I think we need to be doing this oversight, and by the fight against corruption should be a joint
responsibility.
It should be a collaborative responsibility. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. But to Honorable Dr. Samuel Opiah Churi, keep following up. We'll wait to see what happens, and we'll be there to also follow up on the progress.
True.
Yeah.
Moving on, in Health Department, the Ministry of Health, Uganda has attributed persistent cases of obstetric fistula to high rates of teenage pregnancies and delays in accessing emergency maternal care, warning that most cases are preventable with a timely intervention. Commissioner for Maternal and Child Health, Richard Mugai, said 1 in 4 pregnant women in Uganda is a teenager, with the girls as young as 12 to 14 years affected, a trend he described as a major contributor to childbirth complications. Mohagi said these are young girls whose bodies are not yet ready to carry a pregnancy. And this leads to complications like fistula, death of the baby, or even for the mother. He added that limited access to age-appropriate sexual and reproductive health information. Now,
the issue of what is fueling early pregnancies, one, it needs stronger educational efforts in school. And I think parents need to start taking their ladies through what we used to call sex education in the past.
yeah.
Of which someone grows up knowing this is something which is human, but you need a time, a specific period of time to reach a certain age and maybe get engaged into such reproductive.
But Stewart, living alone, that you realize that at the current situation, there is a lot of, moral decay, especially among our youth of today. In many of the occasions, parents are being blamed for neglecting, as you are just talking, that they are not educating the girl child. But when you critically observe how the youth are behaving these days, it is to a larger extent leading to, even the teenage pregnancy that we are talking about. Most of them have deviated from what is supposed to benefit them. And really, they are doing things that, leads them to disaster.
The other time in our last weekly news review here, I talked about the behaviors of the youth currently. Even in criminal aspects, you'll find them, so many. If you go to prison, you'll find more of our youth.
They are
in
the
prison.
majority.
But also I expected these people impregnating these men, or the grown-up men, to be in prison. How have we gone so far? Let me give this a case, an example of Dotuke, the best lady in PLE, the lady who performed so well in PLE in Otuke district.
Yes.
Was reportedly impregnated. How have we gone with the case? Where is that man? Is the man there in Otuke or in prison?
That is
because
a
now
question.
we shouldn't just be talking about this, but the leaders who can take action. These men are there living with these ladies as wives.
So who do we apportion the blame to for such roles?
They should be in prison by now. But anyway, we'll have to, that conversation will have to continue. We need to find a solution-based approach to that. Anyway, moving on, let's look into the new bill that has already been read twice in Parliament, and that is the Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026. A section of stakeholders in Lango sub-region has presented a joint memorandum opposing the proposed Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026, describing it as a dangerous piece of legislation that could stifle economic activity and suppress citizens' voices. The memorandum, containing 4 key demands, was presented by a social entrepreneur, Aliano Elizabeth, to Uyam North Member of Parliament, Honorable Eunice Apio Tuku, during a stakeholders engagement organized by Facilitation for Peace and Development at Pacific Grand Hotel, Lira. In the memorandum, stakeholders demanded that unconditional withdrawal of the bill be done, arguing that it duplicates existing laws, renders them redundant and untimely, undermines national progress. They also urge members of Parliament across party lines to reject the bill entirely and remain accountable to the citizens who elected them. The group further called on the residents of Lango to actively engage their members of Parliament and document how the proposed law could negatively impact livelihoods, access to education, and healthcare. Media houses were also encouraged to translate the bill into Leblango to ensure widespread public understanding and of the bill at the grassroots level. What do you know about the bill?
Stewart, that is a very interesting question. Actually, it is not only addressed to me, but even actually to the viewers out there. One thing we need to understand is that many of the local persons outside there, people are not understanding what the sovereignty bill is about. You see this? And really, I would feel that before anything is done, the local person in the community would be made aware of entirely what this bill is about.
True. I tried to look into the bill, and as a media house, we have been trying to break down the bill. The bill has 30 clauses with the 5 main parts. Now, in the bill, if you look through the bill, I also tried to check through the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, of which Article 1 talks about the sovereignty of the people. And when you go to Article 9 talks about how the country can properly use its own resources to develop the country, and other policies surrounding the sovereignty as well. How do we use other resources from other outside countries, other countries? And also Article 28 that talks about the human rights aspect of it. But I was trying to see the duplication where the civil society organizations are raising the issues on the duplications. I also learned that this bill might bring what is called in law legal redundancy or overlapping legislation. In overlapping legislation is like coming up with a law that already exists somewhere to address the same issues you are bringing on table. In a country like Uganda, whereby our members of parliament start engaging into overlapping legislation, that means, to me, this is a personal, my own opinion. To me, it means there are some arms of the government who have failed to perform their roles. Because why would Parliament go into overlapping legislation to start getting into what we are calling the legal redundancy? Making some laws to be duplicated. That means the other one was not working, and some implementers have not literally been doing their work. However, this is not the first time we are having a bill like this and issues come over a bill that are testing the legality of the bill. It's not the first time. However, we need to look through. This bill is, some people are saying it's for the civil society organizations, politicians, but this bill is for Ugandans when you're talking about the sovereignty.
We are really not blaming the proposed, law, but dear viewers, but we need to really take into consideration to first understand fully the repercussions, the effects that, consenting to the bill will, pose to we the Ugandans.
What is the bill coming to address is the point. We also have other laws like the NGO Act. Anyway, we will keep letting the public
keep our eyes on
about the bill.
Now moving on, the Otuke District LC5 chairperson Francis Abola has raised concern over persistent staffing gaps, attributing them to inadequate wage funding that has left many positions unfilled and forced the district to rely heavily on acting staff. In an interview following the 2025 performance assessment conducted by the Office of the Prime Minister, which ranked Otuke District 162nd nationally, Abola, who is the chairman, acknowledged some progress, but pointed to key challenges slowing development. He criticized the assessment approach, noting that districts were evaluated collectively despite differences in recruitment clearances, with some districts having been allowed to hire staff while others, like Otuke, were still lagging behind. He also emphasized that understaffing has significantly affected, service delivery, as the shortage of wage allocations limits the district's ability to recruit and as well retain qualified personnel. This has further resulted in an operational inefficiencies and increased pressure on the few available workers. Now, does the chairman wants to say that, Otuke did not do well because they lacked, personnel?
Agnes, from the statement and the explanations from the chairman of the district, our friend, Honorable
Yes.
Francis Abola,
The gate man,
is trying to defend the poor result. And trying to defend the poor result is also right to some extent, because if you see what he has said in his statement, blaming even the central government for not supporting them in some other developmental aspects like recruitment and others. But also, Honorable Francis needs to coordinate well with other leaders in the district, and they improve where necessary. I think there is something that they need to do. Otuke is also one of the districts in Lango sub-region where issues of misuse of the road funds were reported.
leaving alone the misuse of the road funds, maybe it is our humble plea to the government to first, give Otuke district enough personnel so that we see in the next assessment whether the district will still lag behind.
But who is not in Otuke who should be doing what to improve on the result? That's a question
we
that
need to
be
investigate
asking,
and we come out with a comprehensive report.
Let us hope the chairman is not just making a political statement, but is telling us the reality. We'll have to go in the ground and see who is not there, which
there
office
is need
not
for us
occupied.
to do the investigation and we come out with a very comprehensive report.
If we look into Aleptong, that performed well from Lango sub-region, the chief administrative officer now, who is on transfer, said
yes,
there was good coordination between his office, that other technical staff members, and the politicians.
Are you trying to say that Otuke lagged behind because they were not coordinating among themselves?
Of course, it is on record. They have been knocking horns there, politically and also technically. Okay, moving on, local leaders in Adegnino Sub-County, Jokolo District, have launched a targeted operation to trace and return school-going children who have dropped out as part of the efforts to curb the increasing cases of early marriages and teenage pregnancies. The initiative was announced by local council 3 chairperson Federico Wallowing following a recent report identifying Adegnino as the worst affected area in the district, with the teenage pregnancy rates reaching as high as 40%, significantly above the district average. While attributed the trend to factors such as poor parental supervision, weak communication between parents and children, family neglect, and cycles of early pregnancy within the households. He noted that with the support from Lango Child and Community Development Federation, in partnership with the Child Fund and UNICEF, the sub-county has rolled out community sensitization campaigns aimed at addressing underlying socio-economic challenges while promoting youth empowerment and education.
During the course of the week, also authorities of the Lira City Boda Association have announced an increase in transport charges across city business areas following a surge in fuel prices at various petrol stations. The announcement was made by the chairperson of Lira City West Boda Association, and that was none other than Juma Owera. This was done during a press conference which was held at Apostolic Social Center. Owera expressed her concern that some of the fuel station owners are taking advantage of the ongoing situation in the Middle East to raise fuel prices, a move that has significantly affected their operations and forced the riders to adjust fares. Owera stated that effective immediately, transport charges within the city have increased by 1,000 shillings, with the fares to peri-urban areas such as Boroboro, Amosha, and Ngera have risen by 2,000. He went on to urge Boda riders to clearly communicate these changes to customers, and this will have to avoid misunderstandings. The association's General Secretary Santos Okello also noted that while rising fuel costs are impacting the transport sector nationwide, some fuel stations have also implemented unusually high price increases. He called on customers to understand and support the industry, emphasizing that Boda riders remain a primary mode of transport for an estimated 70 to 80% of Ugandans.
I see a trend if this continues, if the increase in the fuel prices is to continue. Boda will contribute more than the percentage said, because the people have to park their cars and start using bodas. It's becoming high, by the way, and we also need to find out, is it as a result of the war between United States of America, jointly with Israel, against
Stewart,
Iran?
we are aware of the ongoing war, but you realize that there are other petrol stations that are really hiking the petrol prices in a very abnormal way. Because with the small survey that I made in some areas within Lira City, you realize that they are charging per liter like 7,000 shillings. And to me, such increment, to a larger extent, it is abnormal.
Why does it become abnormal? Maybe those others you're thinking that they're increasing, but normally they are sympathizing with us.
If it continues, then we resort to the bicycle, just like during the COVID time. In any case, you will be doing exercise by force.
I think, how do we address this right now as a country? We also know we have our oil in the country. So this would be the time we'd be utilizing our own oil. But I don't know. I
In
don't
the
want
long
to
run.
go, yeah, anyway, in a long run. But I think this war is now coming to affect us directly.
True.
The negotiation between Trump and, America and Iran is ongoing, but every day you find new outcome. You find different outcomes. Respectively, today it is materializing. The next day,
It has depreciated just
yes.
like that.
But also you can, for now, you can also be doing some exercise. If you used to use 1,000, 2,000 for border, now you'll have to use 4,000 per trip to the destination where you used to go. You can walk for 1,000 or walk for 2,000, then
You top up.
You top up.
It is okay, we move on.
Moving on, let's look into what has happened or what is happening over the delayed construction of the Lira district headquarters. Now, Lira district authorities are planning to engage the Uganda People's Defense Forces, UPDF, leadership over delays in the construction of the new district headquarters. The local council 5 chairperson of Lira, a district local government, RCM Okello Orek, said the planning meeting follows growing public concern about the stalled project. The construction of the district administrative blocks in Oguru Town Council had been awarded to the UPDF Engineering Brigade by the government. Okello attributed the delays to the contractor, noting that lack of progress has left the district struggling with inadequate office space to accommodate staff. He revealed that district leaders intend to travel to Kampala next week to meet the UPDF brigade officials and establish the cause of the delay, especially after funds for the project were already transferred. In the 2024-2025 financial year, the government released 1 billion shillings as a startup funding for the construction of the new headquarters. Of this amount, over 180 million shillings was spent on the preliminary works, leaving a balance of 890 million shillings. The remaining funds were recently transferred to the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs to facilitate the construction.
We need to await their engagement in Kampala, and so we can talk more about, the contractor.
But what happened earlier, I think there was also that there should be something that we might not be aware of.
Yes, Stewart, there should be something that we are not aware of. But since they said they are going to Kampala to engage with the UPDF Engineering Brigade, we seal it up and wait for their engagement, and we take it up from there.
Even there were delays, anyway, we move on.
Yes. Let's wait, they return, and we talk about it.
My question is, why delays everywhere? Even the preliminary works, there were delays. This one also delays. Why delays in the Lira district?
The report will come after engaging with the UPDF engineering works.
Okay, we wait.
Environmental experts in the Lango sub-region have raised concern over the growing practice of cementing graves, warning that it is contributing to environmental degradation. Leonard Otika, the city environment officer, explained that traditional African burial practices were more environmentally friendly, often allowing natural decomposition and minimal disturbance to the soil. However, he noted a shift toward modern burial methods, including the use of concrete slabs, tiles, metallic caskets, as well as expensive hardwood coffins, practices that carry significant environmental consequences. He advocated for green burials where bodies are allowed to decompose naturally, encouraging the use of biodegradable materials and tree planting instead of cement and tiles. He noted that such practices are increasingly being adopted in parts of Europe, including cremation and eco-friendly burial alternatives. Similarly, Walter Ochen, the Lira District Environment Officer, emphasized that while families may choose to cement graves for cultural or personal reasons, the environmental impact is as well significant. He explained that concrete seals off the soil, disrupts microorganisms, and interferes with the natural process such as humus formation. This ultimately weakens soil health and as well, contributes to environmental degradation. What is your take about the modern kind of burial, Stewart?
I think it is the kind of burial that we have really incorporated in our culture, and it has taken quite some time. And now that it is fighting with our environment, we need also, by the way, if experts have started coming out to warn like this, we may need to consider readjusting.
Yes.
I see in that there are cultures whereby either a clan or a community will identify somewhere to be a cemetery where everyone around that community is buried somewhere. But only that our culture here makes us love being around with the dead bodies so much. We need to bury someone so near, so that
to show that
he is there in our compound. And now you'll find it reach a point, because now our end destination on earth is death. So each and every family at one point you'll find at least some grave.
The fact that death is there, but as well we need to be mindful of the environment.
True, I need to but it will take some time to transform ourselves, by the way, and this will need more of education on the dangers of such practices to our environment.
True.
Yeah. Now let's look into the Pope's apostolic journey to Africa. Now Pope Leo XIV, the 11th day visit across multiple African nations, was framed as a mission of peace building, moral renewal, and institutional accountability. Pope Leo engaged political leaders, civil society, clergy, youth, and the victims of conflict. The apostolic journey that Pope Leo XIV undertook began from 13th to 23rd of April in Algeria, Cameroon, Angola, and Equatorial Guinea. Now, days 3 to 4 of his visit, more than 120,000 people joined Pope Leo XIV in Cameroon for an open-air mass, the biggest crowd so far during his 11-day Africa tour. Days 5 to 6, Pope Leo XIV addressed the tens of thousands of faithful near Angola's capital, urging the country to overcome divisions and corruption during a landmark tour of Africa. In his days 7 to 8 of the visit, the day's highlights included celebrating a large mass in Klamba and praying the rosary in Maxima on his second day in Angola. During his visit to Angola, Pope Leo called for dialogue to end conflicts in Ukraine and Lebanon, expressing hope for a 10-day ceasefire. He also emphasized bringing Christ's presence through service and the Eucharist to the people of Angola. Now, in the days 9 to 10, Pope Leo XIV focused on final leg of his tour in Equatorial Guinea following his departure from Angola. His visit was characterized by messages of peace, calls for social justice, and meetings with marginalized groups. Pope Leo then visited a prison in Equatorial Guinea, speaking to 600 detainees in the rain. Day 11, final mass, and it was a continental appeal. Pope Leo XIV concluded his apostolic journey to Equatorial Guinea and 4 African countries with a brief farewell address in Malabo on Wednesday. This marked the end of the 11-day visit to the continent. The journey positioned Pope Leo as a strong moral voice, urging African nations to confront deep structural challenges while affirming hope in the continent's potential. His message consistently tied ethical leadership to sustainable peace and development.
Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the News Roundup. Until next time, I am Agnes Aguilo and
I'm Stewart Bua.
Wishing you a pleasant evening. Goodbye.
Thank you for joining us.
That was the weekly news review on 89.8 FM Radio Wa. Blessed are the peacemakers.